Good afternoon. Welcome to the Education and Culture Committee. This is October 9th, 2025, Thursday. Had to check, make sure I knew what time it was. And we are here for two important items today on our agenda. Glad to be joined by my colleagues, as always, Councilmember Alvarez and Mink, and we're joined by Councilmember Fanny Gonzalez as well. First, we're going to do a MCPS FY25 categorical transfer for the budget, operating budget. And these, we're going to just briefly review where these funds are coming in from and where they're going. And then following that, for the most of the meeting, we'll dive into a briefing. And I just want to thank the folks for showing up, and I love all the colorful clusters in front of us here. But got C. Kennedy, Northwest, and we've got them all here. This is a briefing. The council obviously doesn't have any formal role in approving these changes. It's the Board of Education, but we do have an oversight role in that we are the body that funds the school system. So that's why we're having this briefing and our constituents obviously are asking a lot of questions about this. And I know it's on a lot of people's minds. So I was at a meeting earlier this week at BCC where we're talking about the boundary studies, but obviously one thing important to remember, the boundary study is connected to the regional program shift. If the program shift didn't happen, and that'll be explained, I'm sure, by MCPS today, the boundaries would change. And so they are tied at the hip in that way. So it's important that everyone's engaged and understands what's going on. And this is a big change on top of a lot of big changes that we've had in MCPS. So certainly appreciate the engagement. And I'm optimistic that we'll be able to get some clarity about what has been proposed and ask some questions, and that the board will continue their process and the school system will continue its process for feedback and the work groups that are formed. So with that, I'll turn it over to our council staff, Ms. Cummings, to take us into the first item.
Thank you, Vice President Joando. This afternoon, the committee will take action on two resolutions related to categorical transfer requests from MCPS. Each fiscal year, Council approves the budget for MCPS, which includes budgeted amounts for each state determined category. The two that we'll be discussing today is there's an operating categorical transfer in the amount of $7.2 million and a grant-funded categorical transfer in the amount of $3.3 million. On page 1, section 1, and table 1 of the staff report, we have a table that shows the FY25 fund balance summary as of June 2025. It's noted that the year-end fund balance for FY24 was $18.8 million. And the year-end fund balance for FY25 will be $24.2 million. And it also notes the revenue surplus and expenditure surplus that contributed to the change. And the beginning FY26 fund balance is noted as $22 million. And it notes also the assigned fund balance and blueprint grants that impacts that amount. Section 2, on page 2, we have a summary of the categorical transfers. Table 2 shows the FY25 monthly and year-end balance by state category. And in summary, 9 categories ended FY25 with a surplus amount. These were Category 11, Maintenance of Plant, Category 4, Textbooks and Instructional Supplies, and Category 1, Administration. 4 categories ended in deficit: Category 9, Student Transportation, Category 5, Other Instructional Costs, and Category 3, Instructional Salaries, and Category 7, Student Personnel Services. Council staff would just mention that there is a deficit in Category 3, which is a little bit notable, as in past years there has been a surplus in that category. And that can be seen on Table 3 as well. Also on page 3, going into page 4, there's some trend data over 10 years. And on page 4, we have a section that outlines the grant fund operational category transfer, which is the second action item. and this will be in the amount of $3.3 million. And we did just want to note that while the Employee Benefit Plan EBP fund is not a decision point for the committee today, it is a topic that we will keep showing, as it will be a decision point in next year's budget. And we have on the very back, Table 4, a summary of the plan. This is the same table that was presented at the end of the operating budget cycle this past spring. Updated projections do show that this is in a better position based on council action.
Thank you, Ms. Cummings. You went through quite a bit there. I do have a few questions, and maybe colleagues do too. Ms. Alfonso Winter, if you want to come down, and if I don't know if you're on your own or if Mr. McGuire wants to come with you. So you're on your own. That sounds good. So I'll go backwards on the EBP. This was a big issue, right? We gave you a lot of money last year. The people of Montgomery County gave you a lot of money to help fix the problem in the Employee Benefit Fund. Could you just talk about, are we on track based on what you projected to reduce the deficit over the next several years? Just could you give an update on that, please?
Sure. Good afternoon. So as you know, we have been talking about the Employee Benefit Plan last year. We took several steps to correct the deficit. One of it was part of our negotiations with our associations. We also went back to our consultant, Aon, and negotiated better rates for a 3-year with Cigna, our insurance provider, where they're going to give us a 6-month holiday for administrative fees this year, then 3 months, and then 3 months for the following 2 years. So we do have a big deficit, that we have to reduce, and we have a 3-year plan. My expectation right now, based on the projections and the meeting that we just had with Aon, our expenses have reduced. The projection is that they have reduced, and that we're going to start seeing a decrease
So
in
the claim,
that
the
deficit.
switches in coverage and stuff, and that we're given the negotiated agreement, and so costs are going down.
Costs
this
are
year.
going down. We're managing costs,
Yeah,
not
you're managing
necessarily,
costs.
going down. Unfortunately, I wish they were going down, but part of that is the plan management that we're doing. The GLP-1 RXs, that has seen. We have seen an increase in FY23 from 24 million to 66 million spent to 112 million spent just in GLP-1 drugs. So as part of the negotiation is reducing that cost so that we can stay at a place where our revenue and our expenditures are aligned. But we're not there yet. But my expectation is that we will see a reduction this year. We will keep working on this, but this is going to have to be for MCPS a very big priority in our budget for this year.
Making progress on track as far as you could tell at this point.
Yes, to be on track for in 3 years, like I
3 years,
presented, in
too.
3 years that we will be
Which was the plan that you presented.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
100%.
The instructional salaries show a deficit for the first time in a long time. Could you talk about how that relates to the previously compiled data that showed a surplus and just what's going on there?
No, I think, I believe that all throughout last year, we were showing a deficit. In the past, prior to last year, this has always been the category of instructional salaries where we had the biggest surplus. If you remember in FY24, from FY24 to FY25, we had the reduction in the budget and we had to cut approximately 200 positions at the end of the year. And, that is a very balancing act where we have to make sure that the amount of laps that we're taking when we're reducing positions, that doesn't exceed the amount of money that we need to fund the school system. And I think that was the issue there. It wasn't perfectly balanced. So we were tracking that very closely throughout the year. Last year, at the very beginning of the year, we were showing a much higher deficit, and we reduced that substantially. At the end, though, because we had to add 2 additional days to the school year, and the teachers are salaries, so they don't get paid additional hours for those 2 days, but our supporting services, our paraeducators, our bus drivers that were not scheduled to work those 2 days, and that resulted in a deficit in that category.
Got it. Any questions from colleagues on any of this? No? Okay. Thank you. you did great as usual.
Thank
so we'll take them up together if you guys are okay. The two transfers. So without objection, we'll send those to full council. And appreciate you, Ms. Alfonso Winter. So all right, let's move to the second item. And Mr. Prouty, are you going to start with that? And I'm assuming there's a presentation, and all our MCPS colleagues who are here for this one.
Thank you, Vice President Jawando. The panel from MCPS are here today to give the committee an overview of the proposed regional programming model and provide detail on its goals and purposes. The packet provides background on how the proposal took shape and the guiding considerations behind it. There is detail on page number 2 in terms of the core considerations presented to the Board of Education on April 10th that helped shape this model. They include, and then the next piece is current program data. This starts on page number 3 and continues for several pages, which shows disparity in terms of race, geography, and opportunity in the current program offerings, and detail about the composition of the student body of some of the more popular programs. Please note that on page 7, the list of proposed regions and programs, the list of regions is changed. Damascus and Quince Orchard switched regions. So Damascus is now in Region 6, and Quince Orchard is now in Region 5. This has a small effect on the numbers for the Poolsville programs on page 6. Happy to provide that. It's a very minimal effect, though. And then following, there is detail about the program offerings for each school and for each region. And then finally, there is some asset maps and other program implementation information, as well as a timeline. We are in the midst of the process for this particular proposal. I want to thank the MCPS leadership who's here today for working with us to present this presentation, and the folks who helped them do it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And also want to, again, recognize our parents and families. I think I didn't say Einstein. Thank you for being here, too. So if I missed anyone, we're happy that you're here. I see Laura Stewart from the Board of Education here. Thank you for joining us. So I'm assuming I'll turn it over to you, Ms. McGuire, and introduce your team.
Thank you. So I do have an illustrious team with me from our Office of Teaching and Learning and our curriculum folks, but I'd like to take just a few minutes before they introduce themselves and before we dive into the presentation, just to reflect on the nature of the work that is in front of us here. And as you teed up earlier, Chair Jawando, we are in the midst of two major restructuring efforts in MCPS. One, re-envisioning boundaries for a very large portion of the county, and at the same time, other groupings and regions, even for those areas not encompassed in the boundary scope. And then also at the same time, looking at our secondary program offerings, again, across the entire county. These are linked. They are absolutely linked, and I thank you for flagging that. The two bodies of work, they are both major and significant, but they are traveling together. They are on complementary paths, and the assumptions for each are built on each other. So it is true that the boundary assumptions are taking into account this program effort and the numbers that we anticipate for the program effort, so that we can, again, have those two efforts align as they come to fruition together. Our guiding vision for this work truly is access and opportunity for all students in all areas of the county and in all schools. We have, through a confluence of events, including opening 2 new high schools, including looking at, again, an array of programs, we have a confluence of events that give us, in this moment, a once-in-a-generation opportunity to get this right. The system of secondary programs that we have right now is inequitable, and it creates scarcity, and it creates opportunities for limited numbers of students. No one set out to do that. That was never anyone's idea. That is, however, what has built and accrued over time because of how decisions were made in different times, because of how the county has changed around those decisions. Again, it was no one's intent, and I do not mean to imply that, but it is where we are. where we are is in a state where few students have opportunities to these specialized programs. We have scarcity in the numbers of seats we offer, and we have a patchwork of limitations for how students can answer them or access them. All of that is what we want to change, and more than want to change, we have to change it. We absolutely, that is our mission, and our North Star is to change that dynamic. We will do that through more programs, robust offerings, and an abundance of seats for student interest. We want to meet students and families where they are, and not only where they are in terms of their interests and their abilities, but also literally where they are. Rather than have to figure out if you can catch a bus to some other side of the county, we want to put things in a region that makes more geographic sense, because our county is enormous, and we all know that. We want to build those regions and those opportunities closer to home, allow our students to be closer to home, and allow some nimbleness and flexibility among the schools in those regions. Those are our large goals. We believe in them, we stand by them, and we have a lot of confidence that we're going to get there. We also know that understanding the why still has a lot of how to get there. That how is an iterative building process. It just is. And we are doing that as openly as we can and as much out in the open. And the benefit to that is we are keeping people informed along the way, and we have the benefit of understanding their concerns, their questions, their input, and we're making adjustments. The downside is everyone wants to know what the end is going to look like. And believe me, we all do too. But we have to get there, and we have to get there in a rational, in a planful way, and it will be iterative. So the discomfort and the uncertainty is part of the process, and it reflects the fact that the first boundary map and the last boundary map are always different, and the same is true in concept of our program maps. We start and we build and refine our way to an answer that makes more sense, is implementable, and has the voices of stakeholders. That's our process. We acknowledge it's messy, we acknowledge it's uncomfortable, but we ask everyone to work through it with us because we do believe in the vision that is at the end of that. Part of the iterative process is what you've heard here, which is that there are changes in your packet. There are going to be changes in what we present to the board next week. We're coming here to, again, discuss what we know. We'll also tell you what we don't know, and some changes do have to be sequenced with appropriate notice to our legislative body, the Board of Education. So there is a sequencing to that as well. So with that, I'm happy to turn over to the presentation.
Could you just, will you explain in your presentation the overall timeline, right? That'll be part of it. Good.
Yes.
So why don't we just get into the presentation, and then we'll do questions afterwards. Ms. Hazel.
Sure. Good afternoon, Chair Jawando and County Council members. I would like to just start with introductions, and then I will begin. So, new name, Nikki Porter, Chief Academic Officer.
Sorry.
That's
Congratulations.
Okay. That's okay. Thank you. Go ahead.
I'm Ebony Langford Brown. My name is Ebony Langford Brown, and I'm the new Director of Academic Programs in Montgomery County Public Schools. Today is day 14 for me.
Welcome to the committee.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Jeannie Franklin, Director. We also had a change for our office, so we are the Department of Consortia and Application Program Services. We're no longer the longest name in the county, which that was my favorite.
And I also want to acknowledge Angela McLean, who's in the back there, who is a part of this team. So I want to start by saying that as we talk about secondary programs, for today's purposes and the work that we have been doing thus far is high school. We're going to be talking about just high school today. And I think it should be noted that the majority of students attend their local home high school. So we are talking today about 10 to 15% of students who participate in academic programs at the high school level. And that is really what we're focused on for today's discussion.
Right, and that's an important point. So 80 to 85%, no matter what was changed,
Stay at their home
are going to be at their home school.
Yes.
Under any model.
Yes.
And so we're talking about the 15%
Correct.
that go somewhere else.
Correct.
Got it.
And if you can help me with advanced slides, thank you very much. So if you're familiar at all with MCPS or know of any student who's gone through a program, we know that year after year, programs often get layered on top of one another. And it has been done over the years without a systematic approach. And that approach has led to inconsistencies with access, and it has led to an opportunity gap for many of our students. I just want to kind of share some examples of what we mean when we say inconsistent access for students. So in some cases in the county, some of our students have 3 chances to apply to a program where other students may only have 1 chance to apply to a program. We have over 3,000 students who apply to programs every year, but 2,000 of those students remain on a wait list, and that is because we have limited seats for many of our programs. It's not because they don't have the ability to be in that program. It's just the seat availability. For transportation, we have often limited access, and travel times make it very difficult for many of our families. We also have inconsistency with programming and transportation access. So, for example, our Visual Arts Center at Einstein, one of our longest standing programs, over 4 decades, has never had transportation. Yet we have another high school in our county that has 23 buses that run just for that one program across the district. So there are inequities that we see as we look at programs and the resources that are available to it. And we often hear from our families, and we look at our data from Ms. Franklin's office, that distance is often the main reason why families choose not to participate in programs. And so that is often a barrier. So the other thing that I think is important to note is that many of our high demand programs are often filled by the nearby schools, students in the nearby schools. So it's not always that we have families coming from a variety of areas across the district, but often it's the nearest schools that access those programs. So last spring, the board and our superintendent charged us with examining our current landscape of secondary programs to determine how we could make those programs available to all of our students and increase the access for our communities. And so we have been working to look at student interests. We've been talking with our communities in terms of the priorities and looking at industry need to determine what programs we would like to have in our district. So we are going to be talking about today a regional model. That's our proposal that will allow for more equitable access across all of our high schools. So if you go to the next slide, thank you. You can see here a timeline, and Ms. McGuire stated it. We are in the process of building out this work. So the timeline that we are working under is that our programs will be, the final proposal will be available in December. So when you hear from our community that we don't have a tight program plan, that is true, because we are working with our communities, we are working with our schools, we are talking to students, we are talking to our principals so that we understand and get their feedback, and we are making changes. When you hear lots of changes, it changes every single time we talk to this team, that is true. We are making changes along the way, and next Thursday at the board meeting, we will share our latest version based on the feedback that we have received. So we started, you can see there, September, we did a lot of just talking to the community. We put out surveys. We did focus groups with our students. We do have a design team made up of community members, and so we have been working with them. And then in December, as I stated, we will come up with our final plan and share that with the board. Alongside that work, you can see in March, the boundary study will be going to the board to present their plan, and we will ask the board to vote on both the boundary and the program work in March. And then, assuming all goes well, in the fall, next school year, our current 7th graders, they'll be in 8th grade next year, will have the opportunity to select the programs they'd like to apply to when they are in 9th grade the following year, 2027-28. So that is the timeline that we are working in. So if you go to the next slide, we are proposing a 6-region model. And so the thinking around the 6-region model is to provide equal access to our students, that students would be assigned their home school by the boundary study, and then there would be a region that those school would be in, and that there would be 6 regions, and in each region there would be similar programs in each region. And so we believe that that is going to promote equity and access for our students. It will decrease transportation time for our students. We'll have more efficiencies along the way, and that we can also have more consistency with programming, because we do hear that in our current model that programs that have the same name are very inconsistent, have different resources, and operate differently. And so we want to ensure that from region to region, our students have similar access and opportunities around those programs. If you go to the next slide, you can see this is the latest version around our maps. And we worked alongside our transportation team, our operations and facilities team, and our program team to come up with a variety of map options. So I believe there were 5 or 6 options that we developed. Working with transportation, obviously one of the big considerations was around traffic patterns and things of that nature. We also needed to look at facilities to just ensure, as we are developing these programs, that the facilities have the right structures and resources in place for the programs. And then we also wanted to look at demographics. So those are the 3 big considerations that we had: facilities, transportation, and demographics. No one outweighed the other as we were coming up with these maps. It's not perfect. We're not saying that the transportation is going to be 20 minutes in every situation. That's not going to be the case. But it is certainly better than our current model. And so this is our latest our latest map.
So, Ms. Porter, that would mean if you're in Section 2, Region 2, that's where you, if you live in that area, that's where you would explain what this would mean for where you live. Let me do it that way.
Yes. So if you live in, let me put my glasses on. If you live in Area 4 and you are assigned a homeschool in Area 4, you may stay at that school in just the local school. You may apply to the program that's going to be in that school, or you may apply to another program in that yellow area.
Which will be housed at one of those high schools within that region.
Correct.
But we don't know, and you have some preliminary on what those programs might be. But
yep, that's the next slide.
That's the way the math. That's the way it would work for people. Good.
That's correct.
Thank you.
So, if you go to the next slide, next question is, well, what are the programs that would be at each of these regions? So we have been working again with a design team of community members and staff. That design team started very large, 60, 70 people. It has dwindled down a little bit. A couple of them are in our audience today. And we have been working with not only the design team, but we talked to students. We looked at the interest data. We want to know, where are there long waiting lists currently for programs. We looked at other data and the industry demand to come up with the regional themes. We started with, I believe it was 8 themes, and over time, after we've received a lot of feedback, we've now narrowed it down to 5 regional program themes. And so you can see those themes that are listed here. If you go to the next slide, the next question is, how do you determine which school which program. And so we have been doing what we call asset mapping. What are the strengths and of the programs that currently exist in each school, in each region? This is an example of Region 2. You can see there the names of the schools listed there on the left-hand side, and you can see the program themes that are listed at the top going across. So what we did basically was take each school and put a color code for the programs that they have related to that theme. Some people are looking at this and may get a little confused because they may say, well, I know that a school in my neighborhood, for example, Walter Johnson has the APEX program. I don't see it listed here. That is because that is a program that is specific to that school, and they may keep that program if they choose to do so. But we are talking about regional programs based on these 5 program themes. And so I do want that to be clear because there's an assumption that we are dismantling some of the local programs that are near and dear to that community. That is not what this is.
Do you have a list of those programs that are not contemplated to be within?
I believe it's in that packet.
Is that
in the larger, in the
in the appendix?
Yes.
Okay, so we can get to that later. I think that's a really important point that I've heard a lot too of, well, what does it mean? Obviously there's the interplay of if those programs are related to these areas, who's going to teach them, is another issue potentially, but the staffing, which is an issue all across the board. So the program could, while theoretically it could be kept, it might go because there won't be the educators. So it's just, isn't that correct, potentially?
Potentially, but I think our main focus is these big program themes. We really need to work with the schools and the school leaders around some of the other programs that they have in their schools to really determine if those programs
are necessary or need to stay. Yeah.
And again, I just would say too, I think it's tempting to sort of try to play it all out, all the scenarios when we haven't built them all.
Sure,
and
yeah.
so again, and with staffing, I mean, those are very granular decisions that will have to come, but I wouldn't jump to the assumption that something won't be able to be staffed. That's
right. Well, but it's not an assumption. It's just saying it's a possibility, right? It's a possibility under the current model. Like you could not have the right people. So but just to be clear, it's not that this makes it more or less likely. It's just a factor. So I just want to, But I also, as you're saying though, it's important to note that you're focused on these areas and these programs. So continue.
And so the very last row says to be developed. That essentially means as we are looking at each school and their assets, you can see there that in the green, medical sciences, it is to be developed, meaning that it does not exist in any school in this region. In this case, it doesn't exist. That's one that we have to build out.
And you're just showing us region 2 here. Obviously, there's corresponding for all the other regions.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. So then you can see the green there that needs to be developed. And if you go along, you can see the other areas that need to be developed for this particular region. This is an example. And so, yes, all of the other regions have a very similar asset map attached to it. If you go to the next slide, this is an example, and I'm just showing an example of the initial proposal. I'm acknowledging that by Thursday it will probably look different based on feedback, but Region 2 and Region 4. So that you can see the names of the schools. Each region has 4 to 5 schools, and you can see based on the asset mapping that we did, the program themes that we proposed be in each school. And you can see the purpose of showing these 2 regions side by side is that you can see that we are trying to have similar programming for each region. Okay. All right, next slide, please.
So I'm going to go a little bit deeper into the actual programs themselves, so across those themes. Our program development team is working with schools and to make decisions about the experiences that our students will have in these programs. In that body of work, we're identifying the 4-year course progressions, what students will be required to take, what are the recommended electives for those students. We're also ensuring that there are both criteria and interest-based programs in each of those areas. We're also identifying the 9th grade experience. So what will we do with all of our 9th graders to help them transition into high school, but also into that particular program? They're looking at co-curriculars, which can include things like field trips or showcases that will be experiences in each of the programs. They're also looking at extracurricular activities that students may participate in the program. A key part of it as well is identifying for each of those programs third-party validation. So for example, there may be assessments that are used in IB or AP. We may look at the seal of biliteracy as another third-party validation, or industry standards, industry recognized certifications as well. In each of the programs, we're also identifying a capstone experience. So that might be research, it may be work-based learning, but ensuring that students in that program have that type of experience. A key part of the program development also is our program evaluation. Our teams are looking at what metrics will be used to determine the effectiveness of the program. Some of that is around academics, some of it is about retention, some of it is about interest. There'll be surveys to students, so a variety of measures to determine the success of the program. If you go to the next slide, I just want to give a high-level overview of a possible regional program. As Ms. Porter said, we are developing the medical and science healthcare theme because it's currently not a program. And you'll see that a regional pathway could be criteria-based, which is the medical science, or the clinical health area, which would be interest-based, and that would be for nursing assistant or clinical medical assistant. And then for each of those areas, so the criteria-based program, students would have cohorted accelerated science. They may have biotechnology courses that they participate in, and they'd have a capstone. So you'll see there the proposed program pieces for that criteria-based program. And you'll see similarly with our clinical healthcare programs, that there will be capstone experiences. There'd be a focus on industry-recognized credentials as well. One of the things that we heard very clear is that we need to make sure that every school has high quality programming and creates a strong foundation for all of our students. The design team has been instrumental in identifying what every school needs. And as a part of that conversation, that design team has recommended that we have parallel courses across all of our schools. So for example, all of our schools offer calculus. They have also recommended that we have well-rounded course progression opportunities, meaning that students have courses in electives that allow them to pursue their interests at a deep level and across different areas. There's also a recommendation that we close opportunities for access using distance learning. So if there are courses in schools that may not run, how can we capitalize on virtual learning or distance learning to give access to students across the particular region? It's also critical that we prepare all students in our local programs for advanced coursework. So that should be a key component of building a strong foundation for all of our students to prepare them for coursework, advanced coursework. Also, they have identified the need for all of our students to have some type of research experience so that they are prepared for college and community and also career. So they want to integrate research experiences into all local programs. The last thing I want to touch on is that the team felt strongly that business finance and entrepreneurship should be available in all schools because they are high demand, as well as financial literacy. So as we are building the new regional model, we are simultaneously ensuring that we're getting to the space of every school having a strong program. It's essential to success of the program. So this graphic shows the timeline for implementation of the new regional model. Highlighted in the outlined orange, you'll see that there are 3 years of transitions that Ms. Porter mentioned. And what you'll see there is in green, over those 3 years, those students in 11th grade and 12th grade, and 10th, 11th and 12th grade will continue in their current model during that transition period. And then the blocks highlighted in orange, those students will be in the new model. So the class of 2031, who are our current 7th graders, will be the first group of students who will fully participate in the new regional model. All other cohorts of students will continue in the current model. Okay. So throughout the development process, we have had several questions from various stakeholders, and I just want to highlight a few of them today. The first is around the continuation of countywide programs. Countywide programs will be available as regional programs to the students within that region. We will be building parallel programs in each region so that students in each of the regions have access to that particular program. There also have been questions about the continuation of the Down County and Northeast Consortia, and in this model, the consortia will be realigned to the 6-region model, so that students will attend their assigned homeschool based on the boundary study, and they will be able to apply to programs within that region. The next question is really
saying that the DCC and NEC will no longer exist.
Correct.
Yeah, I would just recommend you say that.
Okay.
I just think this is. I know that's what you kind of say, but I think you should just say it.
We will discontinue the Down County Consortium and Northeast Consortiums.
Yeah, I just think it's clearer, because when people say realigned, or realigned to what, or what does that mean? But I've heard confusion about that, so thank you.
Thank you. And we have questions about which group of students will this impact. And so as we spoke earlier, it will be our current 7th grade students, but all of the other students, including those currently in 8th grade who will be going into 9th grade next year, they'll continue in our current model. And then the last question that I'll uplift today is about access to our technical education hubs at Edison and Seneca Valley. Those programs will continue to be available regionally for students. So throughout the development process, we have had community engagement, as Ms. Porter mentioned. Our first engagement was really around identifying the program interest, and in that space we had surveys, we had interest, we had focus groups as well to identify which programs were of interest to our students, our families, and industry. We also simultaneously developed the project team, and that project team gave feedback and input into the frameworks, so the themes that we would be offering, as well as what is essential for each of our schools. Along the way as well, we have been providing information to our community via messages from our central services, but also we have recently started to have webinars for different parts of the community, most recently the Northeast Consortium and the Down County Consortium, and we will be following up with webinars for our current 6th and 7th grade families as well. And we will continue in our engagement to get feedback. As we said, it is an iterative process, and as we continue to develop, we'll get feedback and make more decisions on the programs themselves, and make refinements based on what we hear from our constituents. And with that, I'll turn it back over to Ms. Porter to wrap up in terms of our timeline.
I think we've covered the timeline. We just wanted to put it out again, just to reiterate that we are in the process of developing these programs, and it is not going to be complete until December. I think that we just want to continue to say that. We want to hear from as many individuals as possible. We have a lot of groups to cover schools, principals, and things of that nature. And we are also beginning to work with our program supervisors, our area supervisors, also working with schools, the coordinators in schools to get their input and expertise. So we're building that out at this time. I know that there were a lot of questions about money in the budget. We are building that and beginning to determine the needs as we are building out these programs. So that is not something that we are able to speak to today, but we know that it is a frequently asked question that we are working towards determining. So I'll turn it over to you for questions.
Thank you, Ms. Porter. So that's good. We have a good amount of time to ask you all questions, which is what we're here to do. I will note that the budget is important. Just for example, I have an 8th grader, right? That's applied, and just for the millions watching at home, the process just opened yesterday for you to apply for these programs. So for all the 8th grade parents or caregivers, and that group will stay in the current model as you just showed on the slide. So, but because of the transition, there'll be a point in time, if this goes forward, where you have both things going on at the same time. And obviously that has an impact on budget. It has an impact on number of educators and student demand. So it's just one of those things that obviously we won't know the exact things till the plane is landed, but it's important to keep in mind. All right, so I'll ask a few questions, turn to colleagues, and then I'm sure we'll have a couple rounds here. One of the big things that I've heard about is the community engagement in the focus group process. So I just want to talk about that a little bit. So it's obviously important when you do a big change to talk to everyone impacted, the people who are, and so could you talk about who between all the stakeholders, students, parents, educators, what are the forms of engagement that you've gone, and literally go through, what are the groups that are active, who's in them, how did you select them? If you could talk about that as they stand right now.
So thank you for the question. So we have worked with student focus groups. We have started with students. This is before the school year was over. We worked with quite a few student groups where we pulled students together to give us feedback about the existing programs and what they were looking for. It was really interesting to hear some of our students did not know about existing programs. So this was a really good way for us to start collecting more information about how do we conduct more outreach. So we did do student focus groups. The next phase was we did set up our design team that's filled with school
staff. Before you move on, what schools, how many students?
So we have that information in our design team, and we did present that to the Board of Education. I'll have to get exactly that. There might have been 8 high schools that we did go to collect information.
You could just follow up. I'd be curious to see that. Thank you. Okay, go ahead.
Then our next, we started off with our design team, and then they are made up of school staff and community members. And that team has been helpful in providing some of the, our first big energy was the program themes. What are the big program themes that we want all students to have access to? So they helped us with that information, but we also had a survey that we prepared and we put it out into the community. We had over 10,000 pieces of feedback that included students, staff, alumni in that part, and we used that information to provide to the design team. Here's the energy of where the program themes are. And the goal was the design team's energy at that time is let us know what the program offerings all students should have access to. Because in our current model, we may have a lot of programs. We have 35 full-time programs for rising grade 9 students. However, not all students are eligible for all of those programs. Some students are eligible for 13. Some students are eligible for 22. So there are a lot of questions about why that is, but that's a result of layering the programs on over time, over different decades, different approaches, different grants, different reasons. So we started with the design team to give us those big 8 theme areas, and now we're at the 5. So then, after we rolled out some of our information regarding the asset map, the program proposals, we wanted to ensure we got in front of our Northeast and Down County Consortium families. We have prepared a number of communications that have been sent to them through back-to-school nights, direct emails, and then we conducted two events, two webinars, September 29th, September 30th, for the Down County Consortium and the Northeast Consortium. And we collected a number of questions. We just posted a number of those FAQs and the slide deck. And as we're answering more of them, we'll go ahead and post more questions as we go. Our next set will be in October, October 22nd and October 27th for additional regional webinars with our community. Usually you have a question.
So what, are these interactive, or this just people talking and then people can type in a question, or what?
That's how we're
that's the
conducting it. It's a
form.
webinar where families can type in a question, and then we have a team that can answer questions. For questions we can't answer right away, we collect those, and then we're posting those on the website, and as we get answers, we post those. So that's this collection time. So after our October 16th, if I can just go to this part,
Please.
then you can follow up. The next step is we're presenting the new refined information to the board on October 16th. And then it's at that time we'll have more information to be able to start collecting feedback from the community.
Great.
So we'll make a plan for that. We are now at the how, and we were just building the what. So that's why we are getting information out, collecting feedback, so that when we have these information meetings and also these interactive opportunities, we can help to frame them for families, showing where their energy is based on the feedback we've collected thus far. So we will be doing more
So
interaction.
there'll be another round of engagement after the October 16th presentation to the board with the new updated
Correct.
plan based on the feedback you've received.
Correct.
One of the concerns that I have, and I'm sure you all share, I hope, is making sure that the feedback is representative of the community. And you know, there's been some reports on the climate survey. We had this issue where we were here a couple weeks ago talking about it was disproportionately certain members of the community that were giving feedback. And obviously that's not, when you're making a big change like this, that's not good. Are there things that you're going to do better in this next round of engagement to address that? Because I think that's a critical component here, including groups that weren't talked to, like the magnet coordinators at the schools, you know, other people that have input on this, you know, but whoever, yeah.
So yes, so we also would like to shout out our design team because they provided us a request to collect the analytics for the webinar. So we were able to collect zip code, current school, and so from that information we had probably over 2,000 log in. But we need to see who logged in, and we need to see which zip codes did not log in and which schools. So that was really helpful for us because then now we can target collecting
So
information.
you haven't analyzed it yet, but you plan to in the next.
Correct.
For the next engagement. I think I just want to emphasize how important that is.
Yes.
And as you're working on that plan, I'd love to see it, and we'd love to help you promote it. I just think through our channels, because it's so important that people know what's going on and that can engage with this because it's such a big change. Go ahead, Ms. McGuire.
I just would say too, I think, you know, you raised some of our school staff members, magnet coordinators. Again, you know, that is also, again, the next phase of work that we're doing to really dig in with our schools, with our school administrators and leadership, as well as, you know, making use of our family engagement specialists who have that language capability in many cases, and that's helpful as well. So we really are taking sort of that deeper granular approach as well as we move forward, again, following next week.
I did want to just add that we have included our magnet coordinators in the conversation as recently as today.
Great. Glad to hear that.
May I share the schools that participated in the
You
focus
may.
groups?
Yeah.
Okay.
We love real-time information. Yeah.
Yes. Damascus High School, Gaithersburg.
These are the students?
Student focus groups, yes.
Damascus?
Damascus, Gaithersburg. We worked with Identity. They did a focus group at Watkins Mill High School. Blake, Kennedy, Springbrook, Richard Montgomery. And then we also did an annual survey to our middle schools around career interests. And when we saw that so that's for the students. And then when we did the community survey and we did see some disproportionate responses, we did go out to work with some of our parent groups in person. Working with Identity helped us with this as well. So we focused on the East County in particular to get a little bit more feedback from community members.
Great. I'm going to ask one more and then pause and go to colleagues, and I'll put myself back in the queue. One part of the report talks about the plan is to replicate successful programs like the countywide IB at Richard Montgomery and the Magnets at Blair and Poolesville. How are you going to make sure that we don't have a one-size-fits-all approach to the new programs and that the offerings are strong regardless of where they are? And then also, just talk a little bit about how you're determining, or if you've determined sufficient student demand in a pipeline of trained teachers to do these programs.
So I'd like to start with the first question regarding scaling the programs. So that's really important. So we do have a lot of program application data for students who apply to all of our programs. And we publish this every year for our Board of Education. And this indicates how many students, what programs they want to apply. But when we further unpack that, we know which high schools or middle schools are coming from. And so we have that analytics to help us know where students want programs and what programs they want. So that's where we're pretty confident that we have trend data that says this group of schools and students have very big interest in the science, math, computer science program, or that there's a lot of interest in IB programs. So we do have trend data that helps us know that information. We also have data about which students are invited and then also in the wait pool. So students who are in the wait pool are just as qualified, but we don't have any more seats left. So we also know that we can fill programs throughout the county simply because we have students who are in the wait pool. So we do have, that's why we feel confident about that information. You might have to repeat the second one.
The second was on
I
the
can't do these
educators,
two-parters.
the educators themselves. So you got to 2/3 of the question.
Okay,
And
all right.
The third is, okay, how the educators to actually teach the classes and the programs.
So that's a really good question. And we know that in the year of 2027, there's going to be a lot of opportunity and a lot of movement because we're opening 2 new high schools. There's going to be lots of opportunity for students to apply to different programs, but also for teachers. And we have teachers who are very interested in these specialized courses. But what is going to be helpful for us is that this is a roll-up process. So we are going to make a graphic to show that when we're scaling, we are doing this 1 year at a time. So we're going to be working with our grade 9 students. And the grade 9 group has a pretty prescriptive opportunity where they'll be taking classes for comprehensive program, but then also they'll be immersed in the specialized courses that they are in addition to participating in co-curriculars. Then the following year, we'll roll up to 9th and 10th, then and so on and so on. So what happens is that we are in a position where we are able to develop the core curriculum for all of these regional programs, because some of them are standalones. The humanities program at Poolesville is a standalone program. We do not have another one like it. So we are able to develop the core experiences and the core curriculum for all of these different programs. We're way ahead of the game because we do have a lot of information already, but then we also have an opportunity to determine with our program leaders what these programs are going to look like and what the professional development is going to look like, and start working with our program leaders who work with the teachers. These are opportunities that are coming. We are interested in recruiting teachers who want to work with this group. So we also have teachers who have very big interest in working with the comprehensive program, and teachers who really want to work with the specialized program. And there's going to be great opportunity for that. But we're really committed to the professional development in this work.
I appreciate that, and I meant to say this at the beginning. I'll say it now and then turn to Councilmember Mink and other colleagues. I appreciate the framing you gave at the beginning, Ms. McGuire, because I would hope all of us would want robust access for every student in MCPS to the these great programs. And I know I've been there. I've seen when people apply to a program and they're devastated when they don't get off the list. And you know, before I was on the county council, you know, I filed a federal civil rights complaint against MCPS because of the immersion programs not being accessible to kids that look like me and my children, and Councilmember Alvarez and Fanny Gonzalez's children, and there were changes made. So I agree with the premise. I think all of us do that. We need to have great programs in every school. It's just the details of this are difficult, and we got to make sure, like you said, the how is actually achieving that. And that's all of these questions you're going to hear today, at least from me, and I think from everyone, are probing that. Because we all want that for our kids, and I appreciate you stating it at the beginning. So I'll turn it to Councilmember Meg.
Thank you. Yeah, that's completely agree with everything that the chair just said. I think you've really laid out an exciting vision for where we want MCPS to go and what we want our students all across the county to benefit from. And as you know, the person who represents District 5, equity of access is top of mind. And so, you know, we want all of our students to have the things that have been accessible to only a relatively small percentage of the county thus far. And so I thank you all for looking deeply into what that can look like. And also, I really, really, really want to make sure, I know we all do, that this is done with fidelity and that it's done successfully, and that when we arrive there, that our programs everywhere are fully staffed, that students are all going to have equitable access within those programs to all of the same materials, infrastructure, you know, lab space, field trips, like all of the different elements that make these programs that we know about now, that, you know, parents are really worried that they're going to lose access to, all of the things that make those programs so great, so exciting. We have to make sure that we don't stand up programs that have that name but don't have those same benefits everywhere. And so I think that's the concern here. You know, the staffing, I know that there's a lot of questions that come before being able to figure out exactly what staffing you're going to need and where, but I think that's, you know, we know already that it's difficult to staff some of these highly specialized programs right now when maybe it's only in one school, you know, it's hard to do. And so thinking about trying to staff all of these different buckets simultaneously at multiple schools across the county, it is hard to imagine how that's going to be possible in such a short time frame. It's good to hear, you know, to have it emphasized about the roll-up. You know, so we're going to staff 9th grade first, and then 9th and 10th, and so on. So that reduces by 4 what an initial estimate might be. But at the same time, again, right now, to staff one program in one school for certain courses that we're going to want to replicate elsewhere is difficult to do. I mean, we're having trouble staffing our immersion programs, and that's a lot easier than some of these even more highly specialized programs. You know, we have students right now who are going without, you know, a Spanish instructor for months or more at a time, or a French instructor, and so on. So, you know, I very much understand and relate to and agree with the concerns that we're hearing from parents, from community members, and from school staff that this is just not realistic. And so I guess when we get to the point when is December also when you'll kind of have an estimate of what staffing would look like that you'll need?
Yes, that is correct. We would like to have all of that laid out, the full plan, what the staffing would be, resources, all of that.
Great. And so at that time, as you're looking at that, what kind of information would might trigger you to say, actually, we need to do a slower timeline, a longer rollout? Maybe we can't open up all of these programs and shift from the current model in all of these buckets at the same time. Maybe we just have to do maybe 1 or 2 at a time or something like that while we work on, you know, build out the workforce pipeline. What information might you get by doing that staffing analysis and having that in hand? What would be the red flags that might trigger that conversation?
Oops, sorry, I'm hitting the wrong button. I appreciate the question. I do think that I think we're going to need to work our way there. I don't think we are anticipating like, oh, this is a go no go moment. We are building, and we will continue to build it and work our way through it. As has been said, we have a year at a time to roll up each piece of it. So I don't know that we're prepared to say like, well, this wouldn't work.
Yeah, so just to clarify, yeah, I don't expect you to say whether something would or wouldn't work. What I'm wondering is what kinds of flags would you be looking for as you look at, once you have that staffing analysis in hand of what you're getting, what you have and what you need, you know, some of these positions, for example, that you're going to want to replicate, that it's taken us this long to find somebody and here's how we did it or whatever, looking at what's available in terms of course content through Montgomery College and what's not, things like that. Once you have that kind of, what kind of information might trigger you to say that we might need to wait on some of these, need a longer timeline for workforce reasons?
So I think certainly you're describing conditions that we'll need to be very carefully recruiting for, and again, working to make that staffing a reality. I don't know that there's a specific answer to your question.
Okay, well, I will say that as we look at that, and something that I'll be interested in looking at is what exactly are the positions that you're looking to fill? How long has it taken you to fill those positions in the schools that already have those programs? What are the local pipelines and partnerships that we have for teachers who might want to be able to shift to teach those courses? What degrees do they need, or what additional certifications might they need? How long does it take them to get those in hand, and how much? And then pairing that with how much. I know you have noted that there has been interest. How much interest? And that's something you could maybe get through the unions quickly or whatever. But how much interest? Compared to the need for those, if we're going to need X number of positions for the 9th grade by this year and X number to fill 9th grade and 10th grade of these positions, what kind of degrees do they need? What kind of certifications do they need? And again, how long, realistically, how long is it going to take you to fill those positions? And then having that in hand, can allow us to understand whether it makes sense to allocate funding for all of those positions and for you, So I assume that that's the type of analysis that you're going to do. And I think having answers to those questions in specific for the public will help everybody feel better about that as well. And then, does that make sense?
Yes, and those criteria will be part of the staffing plan as Ms. Porter is outlining.
Great. And then also on the funding question, transportation. Thinking about how we're going to, obviously, the kids will be going shorter distances now to get to the programs, which is exciting and wonderful in numerous ways, and also like more buses, more kids. So what's that going to look like in terms of funding impact, in terms of how many, are we going to need additional buses? Do you anticipate additional bus drivers, et cetera?
So we definitely, and I do think that, conceptually the budget questions you're asking, we know a couple things. One, we know that opening 2 new high schools is a budget impact all on its own if we changed nothing and did nothing. Mm-hmm. We would have the impact of opening 2 new high schools, running the bus routes associated with those, staffing them, having the program staff there, et cetera. So there's that bump. And then on top of that, there is the grandfathering that we've been talking about, right? We are committed to, maintaining students who are entering or already in these program paths. We want to have that continuity of experience. And again, as with, and we'll have grandfathering associated with the boundaries as well. And so again, we know that all of that also adds to our transportation logistics and logistic costs. So all of which is to say we'll definitely see a budget impact that will gradually go back down. And so that is that sort of sequence, just again to be candid about the flow of that, is something that we know and are planning for. In terms of your ultimate question with transportation, we'll gain some efficiencies. We will gain some efficiencies, but we also, again, will have 2 new schools. So there'll be a little bit of push and pull on that. We anticipate that overall we'll have efficiencies. We are looking, again, within the regional model to keep our transportation regional, reducing a lot of drive time, deadhead miles, and folks, again, crossing over areas of the county. But we will not see those efficiencies for a little while. right? Because again, we're going to be in the bump of the implementation transition that does run multiple things at once. So those are planning logistics that we are working our way through. Want to acknowledge again that I keep doing this with the curve, but that curve is going to be real, and again, we want to be realistic about it. We do anticipate that on the other side of the implementation bump, that we will have some efficiencies over what we have now. In terms of whether there'd be a net increase in buses, the short answer is probably, because again, we have more schools at that point. But our transportation networks may have some efficiencies within them.
Okay, so certainly if more schools means it's going to mean more. But so I guess the comparison would be to, what does it look like with the new schools but without the new program shifts versus, with them, and considering those costs over time. And so we talked about how it's about 10 to 15% of students that don't attend their home schools, and so that's about the number that we're looking at. Is that right?
We presume so, yes.
Okay.
That's our working assumption, yes.
Okay. And is that, what is the percentage if we look specifically at the NEC and the DCC?
Are you asking the question, how many of the students in the NEC and DCC travel to a different school or
Yes.
regional program? So we do have that information. I'd have to bring that back to you, but we do have that
We don't know that
information.
offhand, approximately?
Not on hand.
Okay, I'm honestly surprised about that, because that seems like the much more important percentage, because that would be the number that we would look at to say, this is the number that we would reasonably be assuming are going to choose, outside their home school with this model, right? Because again, we're talking about student choice within a particular region. So if 10 to 15% of the students on average across the entire county don't attend their home school, I would assume it must be a higher percentage, within the consortiums where kids are given choices, given that somebody noted that the primary reason that students have or families have for not going to other programs is the distance, traveling, and the transportation. So, we're shortening that, and then that won't be the number one reason. And so more kids will, make the choice to go other places, as I assume they already do within the existing consortia. So I just want to make sure that as we think about what kind of classroom capacity do we need, what kind of bus capacity do we need, what kind of staffing do we need, that we're not using the 10 to 15%, if that's the kind of countywide assumption that we're using.
We're not. That's again just indicative of sort of where we are, but we are doing the kind of analysis that you're talking about. I'm not sure any of us know the number off the top of our head.
Okay. So that seems like, yeah. So I would just suggest that with future presentations, that rather than using the countywide percentage and talking about that as the assumption number, that we use the consortium number, which I have to assume is the number, the percentage, hopefully, that we're actually using.
So I just want to respond to just
Yeah.
what I do know. So for the Down County Consortium, every one of those schools, Blair, Einstein, Kennedy, Northwood, and Wheaton, they all have an application program. So we have students that go through the choice process, get assigned a school, and then they also simultaneously are applying to a program. So they can apply to one of those schools, even at a school that at a program that's at their school or outside. So the Down County Consortium students have a variety of options. The Northeast Consortium students, it essentially is a program desert. There is one regional IB program among Paint Branch,
Yep.
Springbrook, and Blake.
Yep.
So very big differences, not intended, I'm sure, but over the years, this is what's happened. And so what we don't hear, and I really am grateful for the members that are here to represent their interests, but we have thousands of appeal letters, thousands of phone calls, thousands of families who feel that they're not able to access programming in their area. And so I think that that's the data and the silent voices that we don't always get to see.
Well, they're not
in these
silent,
meetings.
but I know you know that.
But looking at the data, it's just very interesting to see the hundreds and the thousands of people who are very interested in programs or even at their local school. But so I just wanted to elevate that piece, is that the community engagement piece is really important, but we are also using our data to drive that, which is made up of our community.
Absolutely. And I want to be very, very clear that I'm excited about where we're going. I agree that this needs to be mandatory. Like the inequities that have existed for too long, we can say that nobody intended them, but systemic racism and systemic biases do what they do, and that's what brings us here today. And we have a responsibility for putting in the time and the money and the effort to remedy that. And so I absolutely commend that this is the direction that we're going. And I'm asking the questions because we just want to make sure that we're able to do it in a way where we can see the success happening every step of the way, and making sure that the public is privy to those conversations as well, because there are so many concerns, including and especially amongst those who have been impacted by those systemic biases that have played out over the years. And so that transparency, it's really incumbent upon us to provide that as much as is possible. I'm going to ask one more quick question, and then I'm going to yield and get back in the queue. But just to clarify, in your view, does the superintendent have the authority to move forward with the program study changes unilaterally, or does it require Board of Education approval? And I think we all know the answer to that, but I think there's some public clarity that is needed.
There are aspects that will require Board of Education approval.
And can you say which aspects those are? Like curriculum framework, standards, funding, staffing, staff development?
No, in terms of, so the board ultimately has certain responsibilities regarding how students are assigned, right? That's the board's responsibility. The superintendent does have program responsibilities. At the same time, there have been certain board actions around creating boundaries, catchment areas. The consortia is one example. So there are some board actions that will feed into this in terms. So I guess that's why I'm not trying to be obtuse. I just, there are multiple actions that we're dealing with here in terms of boundaries and in terms of programmatic pieces. And so there will be multiple board actions that bring those together.
Okay. So, but we would agree that board approval is required for, the board has to approve curriculum framework, standards, goals, funding, staffing, and staff development. And they must approve addition or elimination of core or non-core courses or programs.
That is correct.
Thank you. I'll yield back.
Yes, so the board has to approve the program changes.
That is correct.
Okay.
We will be bringing the program and the boundary together for them to vote on in March. Yes.
And they will vote on it. It'll be an action. There'll be formal process that the public can participate in. Correct. Councilman Robbins.
Thank you all very much. I had the opportunity to attend the session at BCC earlier this week. I was there right after Council Vice President Jawando, and I had attended the previous sessions, and I've seen a lot of them online as well. This is a heck of a lot of change all happening at the same time, and this is through no fault of your own, but the backdrop is the changes that are happening nationally as well that are uniquely and disproportionately impacting our region. So tensions are very high, and it's just with that backdrop, you all are trying to do what I believe is in the best interest of all of our children, youth, and families in the system. And I believe that we've got an extraordinary group of leaders who are doing the best that they can to address these issues and take advantage of this moment. As you said at the beginning, Ms. McGuire, this is a generational moment that we find ourselves in. And I do have a lot of confidence that you are all doing the best that you can, handling this as sensitively as you can. There is no perfect way of doing this. There is no perfect system. But we're trying to take into account the many, many, many different viewpoints there are on every aspect of this. So just with that as context, I did want to ask a few questions. So assuming this moves forward and it does secure board approval, how will you evaluate and assess to ensure that the inequities that we're currently experiencing aren't exacerbated or in some ways made worse, and that we're trying to truly address the real tangible problem of the inequities that currently exist within the system? How will you conduct that evaluation? I'm not an educator, so if you could speak as plainly as you can on what that might look like, that would be very helpful.
Thank you. So the intention as we build the programs is to identify the metrics that we will use to determine if the program is successful or meeting the goals as envisioned. One of those areas is around access and equity. So there's a whole intentionality about making sure that one of the measures that we use looks at the access and the equity of the program. And so as we develop this, we will identify what can we actually look at in terms of access. Are we going to take a look at the demographics of each of the programs? Are we going to take a look at the completion by demographic area to make decisions about if we've been successful in that particular area and make adjustments? So determine if we are not reaching a certain group of students, what is the barrier to reaching them? Is it that they're not aware? Is it that they're, and so therefore not applying? Is it that they don't have the prerequisite skills? So we need to do some building of skills. Is it about just more outreach in connecting students with other students? So there'll be a variety of things that we can do to address concerns that are raised or what the data actually shows us. So, so one of the spaces is around access and equity, and there'll be other metrics as well, other groupings, looking at student performance generally, looking at the involvement of our community, looking at what our industry leaders are saying, what are we producing, or is it still working in terms of the goals that the industry partners said was critical. So we're building that as a part of the program, and we'll be certain that as we move forward, we continue to do regular evaluation and monitoring.
I appreciate that. And obviously the development of those metrics should be a holistic process, engaging both the educators on the ground, the families, the participants, the students themselves. I know that's happened in the past and you intend to do that, but having consistency in how you do that among the 6 regions so that it doesn't look different in one region versus the other is going to be important. Which leads me to my next question. So say you are a family in Region 1 or Region 2 or any of the 6 regions, and you have feedback that you'd like to give, concerns that you want to raise, or input or suggestions or ideas. Who would you go to? Would you go to your school? Would you go to a central office administrator? What would be the communication channels that you would want to follow in order to be able to provide that input?
That's a great question. And what would happen is we always want to empower our families to go to the school first, because there could be something at the school that they're unaware of in terms of the experience or the curriculum or partnerships that would first go to the school. If the school found that they needed support, they could come to us. We would also empower families that they could always come to us. And so that we would want to always ensure communication. Our goal is to be responsive. We've mentioned that we want to have a core set of expectations for each of the programs. They're each going to have a set of core goals. But each of the programs is going to have, it's going to be personalized because of the community, who they're serving, the interest in that community. The other piece I just wanted to add about that is that in our current model, we have 25 schools, 25 high schools. 9 of our high schools do not have regional programs. So what that means is that they're only sending students out. They're not getting students back. And so that is inequitable because some students want to stay in their home school and be part of a specialized program. So that is going to be that's a model that we already have in place. Always start with your school so that the leaders can be responsive first. And should you need additional help, we are here to help support the school and the family.
Thank you. That's helpful. Next is sort of the geography. So it obviously makes perfect sense to do our best to carve this up because it is a huge county. And as an at-large member of this body, especially during 2 campaign cycles, I can speak about how difficult it is in the first person to navigate this county all the time. So and I want to follow up on some of the questions of Kristen Mink to hone down more specifically and how we're going to be able to provide and access more transportation specifically within the regions. And that's going to have a budget impact. There's just no way around it. But can we talk a little bit more about the strategy that we're going to be using even within the regions? Because traveling, for example, from BCC to Blair, in the afternoons and having to navigate 495 and that entire area. And the same is true in each of the regions. They have their own unique set of just traffic challenges. how are we going to try to navigate that?
Well, one thing I can say is, we do navigate it now. And so this will at least contain some of our cross-county pain to some of those areas. I think, when we looked, and as the team has described, we really dug in with the facilities team, the boundaries team, the transportation team, the program and curriculum team that you see here, because all of those things, again, some of those are in play now and some of them will be. Our transportation folks in general would rather travel east-west than up and down, right? And so you will see groupings that try to look at major arteries that go this way. And that is one theory. We also know that, again, if folks want to stay in their home school, then they can do that, and they will be in a catchment area that's close to their home school. If they're choosing to leave their school for a program, they may have to travel farther, and it may be challenging, but it should be less far and less challenging than it is now. And I think that really is what we are looking to offer, is, again, to have those opportunities still that will involve a choice about transportation, but have them a little bit closer to home. In terms of how we want to stage our transportation, we're also really looking to, as part of the regions that you see here, to regionalize our operations as much as, or at least in some key areas as well, and transportation will be one of those. So again, having those resources closer to the region as well, and hopefully minimizing the time that they're on the road to get to where they need to be, in addition to being closer to the schools. So I realize that's not the world's most specific answer. The traffic is what it is, and again, we just try to mitigate it to the extent possible.
No, well, the east-west, north-south, that was a really good specific example of how we just are trying to deal as best we can with the flow of traffic that's out there. Thank you. I yield back to you, Mr. Vice President.
Thank you. Our guest, Councilmember Fanny Gonzalez.
Thank you so much for having me today. Look, I understand very well that you mean well. I understand that this is all about, you have good intentions here. Okay, I just want to say that up front. And I have worked with some of you, looking at you especially, Essie, and I know that your heart is in the right place. Okay, so I want to say that, because what I'm about to say might come out very bad, but I need you to understand that my intention is good as well. As I'm looking, and I have a 7th and an 8th grader, okay, so I'm also saying this as a mom because I cannot help myself. When I'm looking at this plan, and when I'm the type of council member that has worked intensively in many of my local schools in my district. I've been to Kennedy, I have been to Wheaton, I have been to, I'm not gonna forget Wheaton, I've been to Einstein, just because I really think that in order for me to do my job on the county council, I need to ensure that my schools in my district are doing awesome. So when I first read and heard about this plan, the first thing that came to my mind was this plan was put together with an equality frame instead of an equity sense. And that there's a big difference there. I'm looking at places like Kennedy High School, very close to my house, that has a 60%, I think it's about 60% under capacity. How can we make sure that using an equity lens, we make sure that that particular school, I'm just gonna, highlight that one, has more people interested in going there? Because I have lots of neighbors who decide to send their kids somewhere else because they don't want to go there, when I know that there are amazing teachers, amazing kids doing amazing things in that particular school. So that's the first thing that came to my mind, to be completely honest with you. The second thing is still the staffing. Like, how can you make sure that you have enough teachers, getting paid what they're supposed to get getting paid in all these different programs, instead of focusing on the schools that you need to focus more on? So that's the other thing that I'm thinking of. Then I'm looking at the schedule that you have going on. I feel that this is, and they are my witness. I'm the type of person who always wants to get things right away. Let's get it done. But in this case, I feel like things are going too fast. Like, I'm looking at this timeline, and by December, you're gonna have, or by January, the superintendent is gonna be placing a recommendation in front of the school board. Yet we're still collecting data, and we're like, what, almost in Halloween in October? It just doesn't make any sense to me. Like I mentioned a moment ago, I have an 8th grader, so that means that I'm going to different schools, high schools, for open houses. I was in Northwood yesterday. Today is Kennedy. And I didn't hear, and you could see the parents, just like me, bringing the younger sibling, tagging along just because we have to. And what a great opportunity to be engaging with parents and saying, this is something else that is happening. I need you to also pay attention in case you have a 7th grader, like I do as well. But there was no mention. That was yesterday at Northwood. And I'm sure that today at Kennedy will be the same situation. And it's frustrating for me when we're not really engaging with parents. I bet you, I haven't seen anything in Spanish, by the way. And that also bothers me. Maybe there is, and I don't know, but I should know, especially me. I should know. So again, I'm going back. I know the intentions are well, but I think that this is being rushed when I don't even have a number of how much money we're going to be spending on this, and really, how is this program going to be helping me in Kennedy? And it's going to be helping me in all the other schools that I know we have issues that we need to face. Looking at this with an equality sense doesn't solve this. There's no equity here. Even though you put that word in different paragraphs, it doesn't mean that when I see that you're not really have a plan put together, I just can't see how this is gonna be up and running for my 7th grader to be ready for this so soon when I have so many questions. And I mean, the budget is key. This upcoming budget is gonna be hard. Forget this one that we just approved. That one was easy, I'm sorry. The next one is gonna be so hard. And MCPS gets half of our money here because we walk the talk and we believe in education and want to make sure that we pay our teachers, and we want to make sure that we are, we're a talented county, because we want to make sure that we're developing the next generation of workers who are going to do amazing things for this state and this nation and so on. But you cannot do that when you are like putting aside, well, we don't have the numbers yet. We don't have the data yet. But we're going to get back to you in December or January when the budget comes to us in what, March? Makes no sense. So I love you, but I'm giving you tough love, okay? So those are my thoughts. I have no say here, none of us. We're not on the school board. I'm very happy. Again, kudos to the school board member Laura Stewart for being here. I know there are other school board members who also have jobs who cannot be in every single meeting. But I'm just very concerned, and I yield back, and I won't have more questions. So,
do you want to respond? Does anyone want to respond to that? Let me share and double tap there's a lot said, and I appreciate you joining around. I am also concerned about the timing. Again, I don't question that we need to do something. As someone who's lived in East County for most of his life, and has seen the development of the DCC and NEC, which were meant to be integrating, and you could argue, I think, looking back, what that led to, and so the timing is an issue, and I understand also that you're trying to tie it to the boundary study. But so could you just frankly answer that part of it, the rushed, I think not an unreasonable question about the rushed nature of it, as opposed to the boundary process, which had a much longer, at least a year.
They've been on the same timeline. They've been on the same timeline, more or less. And they have been traveling together. They've been very close to the same timeline in terms of that. So the schools, working our way backward, the schools, this all would go live in the fall of 2027, which is another budget cycle from now. So in terms of some runway for those decisions. So that just again, putting that piece out there. It is a lot. I mean, it is a lot. And I don't want to, I'm certainly not going to sit here and deny that. And I don't want to minimize that. It is a lot. I think the reason that we are taking it on the way we are is to lay a solid foundation all at once. Laying a foundation with a piece here and a piece there and a piece there can lead to cracks. And it really, the program model and the regional model and the boundaries and the new schools do need to come together. They need to hang together and be implemented together. And again, while we're making decisions now so that we do have that implementation runway before the fall of 2027, we have that runway to the fall of 2027. So the decision is the framework, the decision is the program model, the region model, and the boundaries. That is coming through the process to the board in March. And it is a lot, but we are working the process. We are keeping in touch with our community. We're working through each of these iterations. What folks will see next week at the board meeting will be different and have other information than we were able to share over the summer. So none of those are perfect answers, but that is the runway that we have, which again, while the decisions are now, we have another school year before it hits the budget and before it hits that piece. In terms of the equity equality, I would just say that, I'll ask my colleagues to speak more specifically to the programs. We are very sensitive to the example of what you're sharing about Kennedy. And as much as we're looking at existing data and as important and as informative as that is, we also know that there's a lot of that data we don't want to replicate. So we're looking at it not to make it the same and not to say, okay, in fact, maybe some of the reasons folks want to go to other schools are not reasons we want to replicate. And so that is something that we are very mindful of. And that is part of, again, the design that will be in the programs and in the regions. And all the schools then would have that opportunity to be attractive to students. As Ms. Franklin was outlining, we have schools where the students who are interested in programs are only leaving. And we need to create that flexibility where students are choosing schools for a variety of different reasons.
I also wanted to add, in terms of the rush, this feeling of the timing, the admission process is conducted the year before. And so although many of our students who are part of the boundary study will have information in March 2026, what their new high schools will be, we too need to have information prepared for our students for the regional program, because fall of 2026 is when the admission process would start. And it's really important we have comprehensive information to provide to them, translated opportunities to learn about the regional programs and also about their local programs, their local pathways. So hence why this is tied similar to the boundary study, but the admission process happens the year before.
Yeah, and I'm glad you said that, because that was going to be my one question, and then I'll turn it back to Councilor Mink. I mean, I think it's a Herculean task in a year from now, which is what you're saying, to have people begin to make decisions about a program that doesn't exist yet. I mean, I know you're saying that it will exist and you're giving the outlines, but that's tough, and in a way that is where it's not only translated but understood, and obviously anytime there's something new, people are going to have some level of uncertainty or nervousness or anxiousness because they're not knowing exactly what they're going into. But so talk a little bit about the steps that you will take assuming this moves forward in some form, to ensure that the centralized admissions process, is transparent and that families understand it, I mean, that in and of itself needs a very specific timeline and set of strategies around it, assuming you can get everything done to actually have the programs in place and where they're going to be, and then, but actually getting people the information, getting the process set up to apply, and then understand, and then having families understand how placement decisions are made, and what the, if they don't like it, and how that will all work. Could you just talk a little bit about that process?
Sure, and we're not starting from zero. We have existing processes right now that we also see as assets. Some parts of it we really like, and some parts of it we might want to change and grow. So we have a continuous improvement cycle every year where we look at our processes, what do we need to refine, what have we heard from our community, what do our schools say, what are the enrollment outcomes. So that's going to be really important. So we're not starting from ground zero. We have an infrastructure that we can build from, and we are not doing this like the 4 or 5 people up here alone are not doing it alone. We have tremendous support from our middle school principals and our leaders and key staff that help support this. So we are trusting on them. We're going to use a model where we're preparing toolkits and other communication tools for them to help get information out and socialize. So we recognize when we've started other programs, we've learned from what happens and what works and what doesn't work when we roll out new programs. And we also understand that sometimes it takes a few years for families to become comfortable. They're not sure, they want to see what happens. The good thing about this rollout is that we're going to have other opportunities for students to apply to programs, not just in 8th grade. There'll be additional on-ramps, which we have not had before. We know that students blossom at different times, and so that's what we want to build in.
Within high school itself.
Within high school itself.
But I will add, even though I said we were just going to focus on high school, we are really considering what needs to happen at the middle school level for our students so that they are fully informed of all of these 6 program themes, and potentially giving them several weeks of activities so that they understand what is coming for them in high school and that they understand how to begin the application process. So that's something that we're thinking about. We're not quite there yet, but what do we need to provide our middle school students in addition to the career pathways that we've already started introducing to them? So that will help with this process.
I think that will be critical. I mean, we should be doing that already, but I think that's going to be critical with something like this. So you said 2,000 students on the wait list. That's a key piece of the rationale here, which I makes sense. Do you have any projections on what you think this model will turn that number into? I'm assuming some level of reduction.
I was going to say,
or
do you mean
disappearance.
Well,
do you expect to have no wait list? Not with the 6th regional model, that everyone will be in a program. That's the goal,
ideal.
right?
That's the ideal.
And that's
the
what you
goal.
would expect.
That's our goal.
So that everyone will be staffed. There'll be comparability across all the regions.
And then we'll be able to, the programs will be able to respond to student interest within those,
They'll be able to flex based on interest, but then no one will be turned away.
Yes, right.
Have you envisioned, and I know you'd have to talk with the unions on this, but like, how are you going to get the educators in the right places? Are you going to look at incentives or just, right now it's basically interest driven, application driven? Have you started talking about that or thinking about that? How are you going to staff the 6 centers and get people there?
So we have talked with our magnet coordinators who are in these positions, and we also have our academy coordinators who are in some of these positions where they're looking for the most talented staff to come to their school. And so there is a recipe for making sure that these programs are alive for our students. It requires a solid curriculum, rich, engaging co-curriculars, and high-quality teachers that are very invested in the students. So that's the recipe, and that's what we want for every student. But so those are the things that we're looking for. Some of the items that's been really interesting in researching this work is that many of our teachers also are second career teachers who have had a specialty in another industry, and they bring it to our system, which has been really great. But I also just want to amplify that we have a lot of staff and teachers who are very interested in working with a specialty content area in these magnet programs or in the specialized programs or career and technical education programs. So we are really excited about that being an opportunity for them, and then creating space for them to get the professional development, to interview for those positions, and to grow. So it's not lost on us that we're going to have some work in this area because we have work to do without the program challenges. But this is definitely an incentive for teachers who would like a different opportunity. So there's going to be a lot of great opportunity in 2027.
I appreciate it. I'll turn to Councilmember Mink. And just some time check, we're going to, if no one else wants to speak, she'll be the last one for this round.
Okay. Thank you. So, so the staffing plan is we're gonna learn from essentially the staffing work that the current program coordinators have been doing to fill which makes sense, conversations with them where they've been pulling from. Okay. I know that they've been having trouble. So we need more answers for them now, even as the programs currently exist, in one school. So I would say that those concerns still remain. Like, we need pipeline solutions that are new to even staff some of these, especially the really, some of these positions that are particularly difficult to fill, that are highly specialized, that are really kind of the hallmark, though, of some of these specialized programs. Those are the ones that are most difficult to fill, and we have not found the solution for those yet. And we have to get there. And to your point, the work that you're doing is incredibly important because we have to get there. That our students deserve that. And in the name of equity of access and real equity, to the point made by Councilmember Fanny Gonzalez, it requires that. But these are the questions that have to be investigated. When I, put myself into the shoes of a Northeast Consortium student who wants to attend the Blair Math Science Magnet Program, right now they can apply and they can attend. Once the regional model is in place, that East County student doesn't have access to the Blair Magnet Program at that point. And so they will be reliant then, of course, obviously, on within their region, on having a program that is just as high a quality, fully stood up and ready to go in order for them to have access to that same program. And I know that that's what you want to provide them, and that's what they need and deserve. But the concern is that the outlines of the plan to get us there in a very short timeline seem very, very vague. And so the concern is that they're going to lose access to the relatively limited access that they have now to the one program, and that we're not going to have a program that has been implemented with fidelity stood up in time for them to have access for that. It looked like you were going to reach for the button, but if anybody could speak to that concern and how we know for sure. And I'll just say that, I would have far fewer questions and far fewer concerns if we were hearing about kind of the endpoint of where we're going, but without a timeline attached to it. If we were waiting until after we had all that information that's coming in December, et cetera, and understand the staffing analysis, hopefully a transportation analysis, all of these pieces, if we were waiting till all of the course programming, et cetera, what are the pieces that we really need and how much are they all going to cost? If we had all of that and then the timeline was attached to that, I would feel much better about it. But instead, we've got a timeline because we want to time it up. We want to reach a certain date to time it up with another analysis. And we're just hoping that, it sounds like to me, that we're just hoping that all of the rest of it is going to fit into that timeline.
So we're working to that timeline more than we are hoping. And again, this is one of the challenges of having an iterative process that is also being conducted as openly as possible, right? So we are coming to you knowing that there are details left. We've been very open about that. We are saying that there are details that we're working on, and we are telling you that we're working on them and when we will present them. That is how we are meeting this timeline, is by meeting the milestones along the way of the timeline. We don't have a pretty picture tied up in a bow to give today. We do not. And we are being very honest about that. We are also being honest about the work and what work we are doing and the timelines that are in front of us to do that work. As we've said, it's a lot, but the questions are the questions that we are, again, going to work through to solve.
Okay. in March of 2026, we'll have students, right, who are selecting where they want to go based on the regional model. The county council will not have approved no. Okay, sorry, please.
That process will start in the fall of 2026. So March 2026 is when the system makes decisions on the boundary and the program analysis.
Okay. Will there be additional, I would assume, funding that we would expect to need for the implementation that's coming, that the county council is going to have to approve following that? And look, I want to give money to the school system. I always want to give money to the school system. Yes. And like, this is work that has to be funded. It's imperative, it's important, but we're also, as we have discussed, moving into an increasingly difficult financial space. And so my concern is that we're going to have kids who are getting geared up and excited to go for something, and then that there's going to be that, each of these next few years, when we're adding another grade level, is going to come it's going to be a pretty big ticket item, because we're doing all of these programs at the same time. Even if we're doing one grade level at a time, it's a fourth of a very, very big total. And so, and the more actual equity we're going to build into it, the higher that total is going to be. I mean, let's think about field trips. Who pays for field trips right now? Parents. And so field trips are a key component of some of these programs currently. Right now, are we factoring in the cost of field trips as part of the?
Yes, that will be a part
So
of
everybody's,
what we factor in.
so the students within these programs won't have to pay for the field trips, or will?
We haven't gotten to that level of specificity, but field trips, extracurriculars will be built into our plan and to the budget.
Okay, so it's going to be, in order to provide the equity, the resources that are necessary for true equity here, that means that MCPS will have to deviate from what's currently happening, and which is that parents pay for field trips, or not obviously every cost associated with the field trips, but parents are contributing toward the cost of a field trip, and thus there are students who cannot afford to go. And so, given that these are critical components of these programs, we'll have to pay for those in order for there to be true equity, and to make sure that students in one region are not having a different experience in another. Field trips are one example of that. So the more equity we build in, the higher that price tag is going to be. And so my concern is that we'll have kids who are signing up, especially during this transition time, for a program that we're then, as a county, not going to be able to provide the funding to in order to build that next year in.
And so again, so a couple things. One, we have practices in place now to ensure and provide access to field trips. I just want to be clear about that. So that is understanding that, as you said, there'll be an expanse of certain things. We do work with families, and I don't want families to have a message that there's a barrier to field trips if they can't contribute. That is something that we work through and have practices now, and we would look to expand that. I think too that if there is I think too that again, most of the budget impact will be in FY28 in terms of that being that full year. So again, we do have some transitional time to get to that part. And if there are concerns with families that have barriers, I would always encourage them to go to their principals because that is the beginning, as Ms. Franklin was saying, that's the beginning of the process to ensure the families are getting the supports that they need, so that we can be responsive to that.
I hear you, and also, if I may, please.
Please, ma'am.
I hear you, and also, when we're talking about true equity, that would mean that the parents don't have to go to the principal, because the true equity starts with building the equity into the programming. It's just like, we know that if a kid comes up and can't afford their lunch, then in some school systems they would have to go, take an extra step to do. We want to make sure that all of these families, all of these students are having that same experience and not having to do extra. And we have budget constraints. We just do. That's a reality. But these are the pieces that we have to think about. What are we actually realistically able to do? And so, yes, the There'll be some years that are more expensive than others to expand these programs, but it's going to be a big jump every single year. And I have major concerns, and I guess we're going to be having this conversation in December or January, but this is definitely going to be one of the questions. How are we going to make sure that we are able to cash the check that gets written when these kids sign up for their courses in the fall? Do we have a sense of how many spaces per grade each of the regional programs is going to offer?
So we're looking at, for some of our programs, 1 to 2 sections per year. So that could be 30 for some of our career and technical programs. And then for some of our interdisciplinary or theme programs, 2 sections each year. So some will be 240 total or 360. And so because we're tied also to the boundary study, we want to make sure that we create as much space as possible. So I kind of liked your language when you said the word flex. The idea is to try not to have anybody on a wait list or a wait pool. And so, but we also are working toward this boundary study where we don't want to overutilize schools because that strains the resources of the schools, and that's what this boundary study is designed to do. So we want to create at least some space for that, but we know that it's important for families to have a number that they can expect. And so our current model does have between 1 to 4 sections, and so we're going to be using that to start framing. The other piece about this work is that under our current model, we have information. And we have students who have just stopped applying to certain programs because of distance, because of limited transportation. Now with this new model, it's exciting to think about what could happen. There could be a new energy in students applying to programs. We always advocate for families to look at their local school. The magic is there. And so we want you to look at that first. But then if you find that your child is interested in something that's available outside of their school, of course, investigate, examine, and then start to think about, are you the child who can leave your home school? You might travel a little longer. Are you okay with making new friends at a different location? These are all the questions that come in for our families, and so those are the things we want to help our 7th grade families do when we get notice that this is going to go forward.
Thank you. So last comment before I yield for today is we're clearly waiting on a lot between now and December, like a whole lot of details. And so as you are pulling that together, I would just ask that the question be, how can this best be implemented with fidelity and make sure we're not setting anybody up for disappointment? And don't hold yourself to the timeline that's proposed today, please, because you have information that you have not, there's information I know that you've gathered that you haven't presented here today, but I know that there's also information that you're in the process of gathering and that you will gather. And so please leave yourself the openness to be able to look at that data and say, actually, it's going to make more sense. And as we look at the fiscal picture ahead, et cetera, to extend that timeline, I think that if we are working toward this over more years, there's a lot of timelines that are being extended now solely because of the fiscal picture ahead of us. It is very, very reasonable to do that here too, although I know that it would not time up exactly the same as the boundary study, but I think that I don't see why that would necessarily be that big of a deal, and also there are just other realities that need to be addressed. I mean, some of these may have a CIP impact, lab space. There's a lot of factors to continue to consider here. So please be open to that. And if we know that you are open to that and you still have looked under every rock and planned for every scenario and it works, I will be very, very excited. But from this vantage point, it looks like a Herculean, perhaps impossible task. And I see Ms. McGuire.
I only would, so certainly we'll remain open to what the data shows us and what we need to do, because we want this to succeed more than we want anything different to happen. What I wanted to comment on was why it wouldn't be a big deal. It's a big deal for a couple of reasons. One, again, we have assumptions around building capacity, around use of space, around the physical assets that are in the space. Those assumptions are tied to the boundary study and to the program movement all at the same time. And that movement within regions is part of our assessment too around the program pieces. And I really want to stress again that the program model and implementation of that with students being able to have that access and that choice together as a package, as opposed to bits and pieces over time. Bits and pieces over time is what's brought us to where we are. And we want to be very cautious that we don't create a foundation for our program structure that has cracks built into it.
I understand. And I understand why what you described would be ideal. And also, it's going to be very, very, very difficult. So I appreciate you taking it on, and I look forward to the December conversation.
Yeah, and just on that point, to our staff and to you, notice I would like to come back in December.
So I hear December, our first responsibility is to present to the board, so we'll need to be clear on that schedule and how that lines up with both entities'
Yeah, obviously.
recess.
Well, I'll talk to the board member in here, line it up so that they can come back here in December. I mean, yes, I understand that, but I think it's important we get a different level of oversight and transparency and communication to the public that the board gets. It's an important relationship. So I understand that, of course, but I would just ask that we work really hard, and my staff will work with you guys to make that happen. The other thing I'd say is just on the engagement, which I started with and I'll end with, is I would like to see and encourage you to just build out, look at that list. I'd love to see the list of who you engaged on all the stakeholders we talked about in written form. Just so that we can give feedback, for example, and make some suggestions. Obviously, you'll do what you want to do, but I'd like to give some feedback because given I thank you for using my Herculean word. I think given the effort that's going to be required, I think it begs for even more robust engagement and deeper with groups that we haven't talked to. For example, it's great that you went to those schools, but let's talk to the MSP students or the student government. Let's get deeper into some of the impacted. Did you already do that?
Well, we did both middle school and high school student governments.
Government, okay.
Yes.
Well, maybe minority scholars would be a great one, and just we'll give feedback on that again. I know you can't talk to everyone, and then on the type of engagement. One of the things I heard back anecdotally was that when you talk to some of the coordinators, that it was, they were in a webinar, they had some slides, they went to a breakout room, no one came from the school system, and they filled out a structured form, and then it was over, and they didn't feel engaged. I know it's a big system, but the extent that we can try to make it a deeper, more meaningful level of engagement, particularly when you have more to share, like you will soon, I think that will be helpful.
We did circle back with those groups, and we were doing it in smaller groups. So we did large groups with our school staff, school coordinators, school counselors, middle school counselors. We pulled them all together to give them the information firsthand. We let them have processing time. So that's really important to have processing time. They collected a lot of questions. So I circled back with our magnet coordinators as a model and went through the questions. And at the end, one of the staff members said, "You answered all of our questions." But it also provides us an opportunity to hear what each group needs. So it's different for each group, but we did want to share that information, and so we're on the cycle to do that for all of our groups.
I appreciate it, and thank you again. Like I said, I know we are all trying to do the best for our kids and to expand opportunity, and none of this is easy. But we appreciate the update and look forward to seeing you back for other topics soon, but this topic hopefully before the end of the year. We're good? Thank you all. With that, we are adjourned.